All right. Well, good morning, everyone. So glad you could be with us. Uh, it is March the 19th, and this is the Move to Amend Ohio launch of the Pledge to Amend campaign. So do appreciate the opportunity to be with you and your interest. Again, please do mute yourself during the presentation. I just have a number of slides I want to go over that tries to introduce you to the program. I know some of you are already familiar with what Pledge to Amend is. We had nationally a program, when was that? About 2 weeks ago, in which Jeff Clark from our Minnesota state network shared the ongoing work, and they're sort of the go-to group in the country statewide for Move to Amend that has been doing this project for quite a number of years and sort of have developed, I think, are some of the best practices. So anyway, the idea is, I would think this presentation is going to go more than 20, 25 minutes. So we'll have plenty of time for questions, discussions, and strategizing on how we want to proceed to the extent you individually and or your group take part in reaching out to your favorite candidates in your part of the world, whatever part of the world that may be, to invite them to take the pledge. So with that, let me just get the presentation here. There we go, and here. And here. I hope it loads there. All right, so I'm going to try to put all of you either vertically or horizontally in a way that doesn't block out. Let's see here. I have to do this. Unfortunately, I can't see many of you. All right, so hopefully all of you can hear me. Welcome. I'm going to start with just basically run over very quickly some of the background of Move to Amend, beginning first with our mission, it being a coalition of upwards of plus more than 600 organizations and over 480,000 individuals who are collectively committed to social and economic justice, ending corporate rule, and even beyond that, trying to build a vibrant democracy that is, wouldn't this be refreshing, genuinely accountable to the people, not corporate interests. Our principles and values have been the same pretty much since day one, as we came together back shortly after the Citizens United decision in 2010 to create an anti-oppressive and solidarity organization to focus and be committed to coalition and movement building. That's sort of focused at the vertical level in terms of reaching out to regional and national organizations. More horizontally, I should say, vertically, grassroots organizing and working with people like you who are at the local level, either a part of an existing group or individually promoting them to the extent you have been and can be. Because quite honestly, to create the movement necessary to bring change, you have to build power. And that requires both sort of having vertical and horizontal connections and people. We're dedicated to political education. We have to get on the other side of the learning curve because I don't know about you, I never learned about these issues related to the essence and the core, how it came to be that corporate entities possessed never intended inalienable corporate constitutional rights, or how money became defined as free speech and sort of the history of that and the like. So the issues around what we do requires ongoing education. It just is not going to kind of be downloaded into our brains from some app somewhere. We have to consciously and deliberately focus on it. And then lastly, very important to be both politically and economically independent, not connected to any political party, not connected to a single funder, because that's the only way that we can authentically represent those that we want to, people at the grassroots, and focusing for fundamental change, not to be constricted or influenced by either political parties, in which we might be a front, or a wealthy individual that, again, in either case has strings to pull or levers to move. Our goals is to pass this We the People Amendment H.R. That makes crystal clear our official entities do not have constitutional rights. Money is not speech. We're up to 90 now co-sponsors in the House of Representatives. But equally important to use the amendment as a stepping stone to provoke discussion and organizing about how to make real the promise of democracy through constitutional renewal that goes beyond even the amendment, because we know that the Constitution and the rules of the game, if you will, of our society are quite rigged. That goes beyond these twin constitutional democratic doctrines of money is speech and corporate entities are persons. Our strategy is coalition building, to reaching out to other organizations working on issues affected by corporate power, to build a broad and diverse multiracial and intergenerational movement. Again, reaching out to those who are most adversely affected. Always trying individuals and groups where their concerns, their needs, their agendas intersect with that of money and politics and corporate power, corporate rule. We don't just sort of individually go out and do single events, but just try to focus on organizing. And by organizing, we're talking about trying to develop leadership, trying to develop education, capacity, and structures, both individually as an organization, but then organizing can also involve working in alliances, working in networks, working in coalitions, and to develop that breadth and depth of awareness in skill training. We focus on grassroots organizing to pass local and state resolutions. That's sort of one of the main hooks to help us understand and help people we run understand about what the amendment is. It's been a pretty effective vehicle. Over 700 communities and states, 7 rest are communities, have passed either ballot initiatives or community resolutions. Whoops. And lastly, again, a hook is this pledge to seek amendment support by collecting not just those individuals who are currently in office, that's what the resolutions are about in that bullet point above, but those candidates who are running for public office, be it incumbents or people, challengers, to take our pledge. And that pledge, we'll get into in a moment what exactly says, but the purposes of it is, well, these, can you get that, Sandy? I think I can get that. There we go. Okay, so the purposes of the pledge are these: to educate a candidate about the issue or issues of what it is we're about, to identify whether a candidate is a supporter of our position, an opponent, or undecided. Where are they on the spectrum? This helps sort of smoke them out. To try to move them wherever they are, to move a supporter, if they already are, get this and understand it, to really become an active supporter, what we call champion. If they're undecided, then to get them to become a supporter. If they are against us, then we're trying to, I don't particularly like the word neutralize, but to soften, in other words, to get them maybe if they have been actively or coming in to be actively oppositional to what we do, to at least educate them enough to where they become inactive. They may hem and haw, but they're not out there assertively or aggressively opposing us. So think of all of this as sort of a spectrum, going from total support to total opposition. And wherever people are on that spectrum, we're trying to move them from the oppositional end of that 180 degree toward us. So if they're active, to go from that stage to inactive. If they're inactive, to become neutral. If they're neutral, to become somewhat supportive, but not really on the ground being a champion. And that's ultimately what we're looking for inside the system as a candidate. And we'll get to what that really means later on. And lastly, to use the campaign as as an excuse to inform the media and public about Move to Amend and the We the People Amendment. Okay, so the questionnaire or the pledge is pretty familiar. It just is what the amendment says, sort of in summary, that they to amending the U.S. Constitution to make clear that corporations and other artificial entities, by artificial entities, in addition to for-profit corporations, we include non-profit, not-for-profit, as well as labor unions. Those artificial entities do, and any other artificial entity out there, they do not in totality have constitutional rights. Statutory rights is one thing that's different. Right to sue and be treated as a unitary actor for being able to form a contract. We have no problem with that. Those rights, quote unquote, if you will, are those that have been created through law. That's a huge difference from a constitutional right. So that's part of what we say. The other is I support amending the Constitution to declare that money is not speech and campaign spending should be limited through. I will use my office, sort of the second component to this is I'll use my office, whatever office that may be, to support the movement to amend the Constitution by a variety of things, passing resolutions, proposing legislation, and publicly speaking out about the need for this. And the form itself does offer then sort of an open-ended response to this last piece of this. It's a question: how will you use your public office to end corporate constitutional rights and big money in politics? So that's the link to where we really want to direct people ultimately to when they go online, where they can check off then the first two items. I support the amendment, I'll use my office, and then I will fill in here space in response to this question. Our goals nationally is 1,000 pledge to amend signups across the country, 50% of whom we hope are elected on election day. So we're trying to identify candidates for all of these levels of office, from the local to the federal, to get their support on record, to get them committed so that when they are elected, then we can come back to them the day after, month after, whenever it is appropriate to say, okay, thank you so much. Can you help us now do what you have pledged to do? At some point here later on, we're going to talk about can we commit to some sort of rough goal in Ohio, understanding nationally if the goal is to collect 1,000, what do we think our goal should be collectively between now and election day here in Ohio? All right, well, if we're talking about here in Ohio, how many potential races are there? And just to preface this by saying that you can approach candidates, or I should say anyone who is either a candidate for office or a office holder, an incumbent, whether they're up for election or not. So this is not limited to just that subset of individuals that are running for office. Those individuals, in a sense, are sort of most accessible because they're trying to be accessible in reaching voters, potential voters. But even if you're a council person, county commissioner, whoever, senator, because not all state senators are up for election this year, they can be approached. They're fair game as well. But as we know, as you may know, there is a Senate race going on in Ohio, and there's, I believe, because of the redoing, we are losing a congressional office. So that means seat in Ohio. That means we are going from 16 to 15. Of course, as you well know, those lines are still not drawn thanks to the cast of characters down in Columbus that 3 times now seemingly have struck out to the satisfaction of the courts in developing maps that are even remotely fair, that addresses federal as well as the state redistricting. So we have 1 Senate race, 15 House representative races. At the state level, there are 5 statewide races: governor, secretary of state, attorney general, treasurer, and the like. And 17, there's 33 state senators. 17 are up this time. 2 years from now, the other 16 will be up. But all 99 representatives, they're up every 2 years. So we have 99 state reps. Each and every one of them is up. So again, we're talking about not just incumbents, but then, and not all races have challengers, but most of them, we'll see, because we just, at this point, they're just, because the lines have not yet been drawn, there is just a real shortage of listed candidates. Here we are, about a month and a half away from the actual stated primary, and there are still most candidates have not yet declared. At the county level, commissioners, again, as you may know, 88 counties, 86 of them, right? 86 of them are the sort of commissioner route in which they're organized. They don't have their own charter. There's only 2 counties, Cuyahoga and Summit, that have a charter form of government organized similarly to like a city that has a mayor at the county level. It's a county executive and has a council. The rest of them, 86 of them, have commissioners. I believe no more than 3 of them. So your county can have 3 people who may or may not be up this time. Same at the county. I don't believe, well, I don't know, actually, if we'll get into that. I think maybe there are, at least Cuyahoga County, it's where I live. So maybe the other Summit County as well. And I don't know how many commissioners are up. At the local level, there's mayoral races and council, the equivalent of the members who make up people at sort of a ward or district level can be called either council or trustees or something equivalent. So any of those are fair game, whether they are up or not this year for election. So those are the candidates for the candidate pledge. All right, so the dates we're talking about is, again, May 3rd, which may or may not. It's not looking as of yesterday. Again, some of you may have greater insight than I do, but it's not looking real pretty that it's going to be able to be pulled off primary by May 3rd. Or if they do, I read that maybe only some of the races will be May 3rd, but they'll have to have an additional special election come June. So this is really very strange, very fluid, and makes our job actually more difficult because in a sense, we don't know who we're trying to reach out to in many cases. Many incumbents will probably run whatever district. They may not know what district they're going to run in, but they may still choose to run if they aren't term limited. What we do know is that general election day will be November the 8th. Okay, so the process for garnering pledges are what I've come up with 7 steps in, I get pretty much sequential order, beginning first with review pledge materials. We'll get to each of these individually later on. So it's just sort of becoming familiar with the materials that Move to Amend has put together that is available already. You really will not have to create just about anything on your own. Everything has been produced in template form that you just need to tailor to your particular office, person, self. Second is to figure out, again, this is pretty fluid and who the hell knows, but in general at this point, conceptually, what races do you want to focus on? Who do you want to address? What offices, what races at whatever level? We'll get to that. Third step is trying to come up with a list of, based on who those candidates are in those races, contact information, preferably both email, physical address, and of course phone number as well, to the extent we can find those. Once those are in hand, then reaching out and communicating with them, and that can be done in a variety of ways. Whatever works, basically. Fifth is recording, keeping track of the communication. When was the last time you reached out to them by email, phone, whatever, so that you just sort of have some sort of ongoing intel in case there's more than one person, maybe, who is trying to reach out to that particular representative. And also it includes recording pledgers, making sure people who have committed, who have said they were going to pledge, in fact, have, and then so noting that on a separate form that then can be uh, sent to national and used internally for 6 and 7, which is to follow up, communicate to those who have positively responded, to thank them, to have them become advocates and sharers of information about the movement. And then finally, to publicize to pledgers, publicizing both internally to our own members, to the groups that you're involved in, to say, hey, this person has, or these persons have committed, but also externally to the community at large, either via a variety of ways, social media, press releases, and the like. So those are the respective steps. So in going through these, pledge to amend, sort of reviewing pledge materials, and can I do this? No, I would have to, I might stop the share for a second. Okay, here we are here. Oh no, wait a second here. All right. No.
Greg, if you want me to pull up that page, I got it up already.
Yeah, what I'm going to do is here, I had these supposedly already listed. But find where they, okay, here we are. No. I'm just not going to do that. So you will receive, everyone who is registered will get these links. So you don't have to worry about trying to write them down or scribble them down at the moment. But this is a page that lists, it's a really good page that has just sort of the background of move to amend. You can go to it right now if you want, or just wait to receive it, as well as a link to many of the individual items, some of which I'm going to list here momentarily under some of these other points. But this just sort of gives you an overview of the whole campaign. Okay. Determine the races to focus on. So this is your call, basically, to decide, how you want, however modest or extensive you want to be involved in this. So there is no right answer. There's no, limited threshold, minimum amount we're asking. Whatever you feel comfortable, capable, and able to do, that's great. We really appreciate it. And so the ways to think about it, one would be geographically, to think about your town, your county, your SMSA, Standard Metropolitan Statistical Area, would be one way to do it. And so by saying, let's say your city of Toledo, it would be every candidate who is going to be on the ballot in Toledo. Let's say it could be from the federal down to the local, or the local down to the federal, depending on how you're going to look at it. So that would be one way to look at it and to approach it. The other is level, the second bullet point there, or dot. Say that, okay, I'm interested in sort of dealing with, let's say, part of all state reps, Ohio reps. There's 9 offices, I'm going to take 1 through 10. Or House senators, there's 17 of them. I think my group can deal with all 17 of them. Or I'm just interested in the Ohio races, right? Governor, Secretary of State, et cetera. Or the federal. I only want to focus on my congressperson running for office and whoever is up against him or her. So, that's a way to do it, if interested. Be mindful, however, there are a number of people who have already pledged, and that's the link to where, I don't know, there's maybe a dozen or so, mostly the local level, who ran last year or for this year, like several people in, no, that would have been last year. But that's fine, because, we sort of focus on, even though it's 22, we sort of focus on equivalent cycle. And so a campaign cycle is a 2-year cycle. So we're really looking on people who have pledged in 2021 and 2022. So please, that would be a place to check to see whether, if you want to reach out to somebody, whether they've already pledged. And when you've decided where you want to go, please email us. And that's so we can coordinate, so that we want to make sure that, somebody who says, I'm willing to deal with my city and everybody in the city of Toledo, that includes, that includes Marcy Kaptur, who's the sitting US representative, and people challenging her, is not reached out by more than one person, because a second person is saying, okay, I'm willing to take all Congress people at the federal level. That would include Marcy Kaptur. So we would say, hey, don't take Marcy Kaptur, because the Toledo person is going to do that. Or you can arm wrestle over it. We'll figure out some way, but we need to know that. So that would be, please, if you're interested later on, once we get off the call, to let us know, so we can coordinate that candidates are not being bombarded by more than one person. Okay. Again, hold your questions until the end. All right, candidate contacts. How do you find out who these, well, we know, who these people are and how to contact them. Well, where to find out, of course, is the contact information is where they file, and we're going to get into that momentarily. But also, if you already at least know the names, you can find out by seeing if they have their own campaign websites. That's apart from number 4, which is if they're an existing public official and incumbent, they can and probably do on that, again, using Toledo, the Toledo City Council already has a website, and from your person who you want to reach out to, or all of them, have their own, picture on the City Council page of the Toledo City website. And there's their name, there's to reach them, there's their phone number. It may be this number at City Hall and email address. And if that's not appropriate, well, they'll tell you if they have a separate campaign one. But that's at least a good place to start with. At least you reach them. Number 3 is social media. A lot of these people anymore all have Facebook pages or Twitter pages or Twitter sites pages and the like, and that may be an initial place to reach them. The other place to reach them is through public appearances at public events, whether it's meet and greets. They may knock on your door, or they may have a town hall. They may have just an open session. They may, I'm going to be at a bar tomorrow just to mingle, wherever I'm having a small fundraiser, whatever the case may be. That may be a place to go, to attend, to corner them, and then to just as the goal is in the case of number 5, to obtain and or email address and phone number, but actually to corner them and give them, the form to see if they would fill it out right then and there, or at least take it with them. All right. How do you find out who these people are who are running? My experience at this point, and given that, again, there's so many, if you go to the Ohio Secretary of State's office, it's almost hilarious when you're looking up who's declared in for like Ohio House offices. There's like of the 99 offices, like 4 people who have officially declared it at some point. So it's just ridiculous. They haven't reported, at least there. The best place, single best place, I think, until, again, you got to wait until the filing period is ended, which is, I think, still a couple of weeks away. I think that's the 20, I guess it's next week. It's coming up pretty soon. We can find out for sure. But once that has happened, and I'm not exactly sure. I know there's something on the Secretary of State's office. There's a whole timeline of when things are, but that's conditional on whether the election is going to be May 3rd or not. So they may move back the deadline for filing if they still don't have maps in the next 48 hours. But I think the single best, because there's already a number of declared candidates who can be found at your county board of elections. And that includes, all the people. If you are a person running for a state office, governor, they appear. Every gubernatorial candidate appears on every county board of election site. So there is their name and there is at least a street address. So you at least have that to work with. You at least know who is running at the state level for Congress and for statewide offices. Now, after that, you're sort of stuck if you are wanting to do anything that's not geographic. If it's geographic, you're in luck, because if you want to do Toledo, hey, you can go to the Lucas County Board of Elections, and there, voila, is everybody who is running in the city of Toledo, and as well as everywhere else. Or if you want the whole county, county, as well as maybe you just want Toledo and one or two other cities. Again, it's totally up to you where you want to go. But I think if you want to get a head start on things, County Board of Elections would be good. Those other places, Ballotpedia and Secretary of State are the places to check. But again, really do need to wait until the filing period is ended. All right, candidate communications. Again, I'm not going to try to go out of this because I can't easily get to it. But again, you will get the link to these letters. They are template. Well, the handout is a finished handout. The pledge form handout is just something that is already, it's just a blank document that you can take again to your town hall meeting, wherever, give it to them, encourage them to fill it out, or at the bottom of it, of the handout, it's one sheet, two-sided, is the address for them if they want to go online. That would be preferable in a sense. It cuts both ways. On the one hand, you really want them, right? We really want them to fill it out. So, what's that term about the thing in the hand is better than the feathers and birds? I can't remember what that is, but whatever it is, it's best in a perfect world to get them to fill the thing out right then and there. You got it. And the worst thing you have to do then is to transcribe that information. If they don't want to do it because, well, I haven't looked at it enough, who's moved to amend, who are you, that kind of thing, that's okay. They can go home, they can study it, and there is the address right then and there that they can go to, has all the information on it. So, that requires obviously following up. You've already developed some relationship with them, which is great. But, it would be great if they would fill it out then and there. So that's the form. The invitation letter is a template letter that you can just use and tailor to however many individuals you're reaching out to. That can, once it's filled out, you can either send via snail mail, email. I guess you could even attach it as an attachment on Facebook. There's ways to do that. If you have a document and say you want to make it a Google, it's already a Google document, and then just send it that way. Okay. 5, recording communication pledgers. Again, these are forms. There's 2 different forms. The first one is sort of the running tally. It's sort of a working document that lists candidates you've reached out to, you've sent letters to, and so there's places and spaces to sort of keep track of how you, in reaching out. I made a call on March 20th, and I called back on the 27th. I emailed on April 1st. I texted on April 3rd, that sort of thing. And then finally, they responded and said, yes, I'm willing to pledge. And then that information then goes to the template, that second document, that then you fill in and complete. And there's a couple drop-down menus. In fact, when we maybe get off, I can go, when I end this whole thing, maybe at least that document show how that works. But it's a really nice thing that National has developed, that you can easily fill out. You don't even have to type everything in. It just shows, it provides options by a drop-down menu of what office they're running for, the incumbent, are they willing to support beyond just saying they support it, a variety of different ways. So those are the documents that are available to record the communication and the pledgers. All right, 6, follow-up. the pledgers, those who have responded. There's a thank you email. And I didn't put the link to that, but I think we have a template. That there's information, Move to Amend information that has been sent. Usually, I mean, again, different groups send different things. Some groups, I think the Minnesota group had sent that blue, sort of the 10-year plan, the path to the 28th Amendment, which is somewhat outdated now because it's 5 years old, but that's what they were sending to candidates, thanking them, giving them more in-depth understanding. I mean, they're in the middle of a race. They don't have time, particularly because this isn't addressing maybe an issue that is at the very top of their list. It should be, particularly if they're a federal or state candidate, even local, since we know a lot of issues that these mayors and councils pass get preempted. So they should have a greater awareness. But in the height of the campaign, when they're running for, say, local office, they're not necessarily going to deep dive into this issue. So here's an opportunity. All right, now they're elected, or now they've already committed to this. They're still in the midst of a campaign. We want to give them some more information that they can use maybe during the balance of the campaign to try to connect the issues, their pledge or their platform that they're going around and talking to people about, to make mention and to show how it's connected to the We the People Amendment. So any information that we could send them in that regard, and we have a couple ideas there, would be possible to forward. And lastly, here is, we invite candidates, as we're thanking them, as we're sending information, to use their pledge in publicity to say, I not only have been endorsed by, the local neighborhood group or, this community organization, but I've taken the pledge to amend that says money is not speech and corporations are not people. But it excludes our endorsement of them. We cannot endorse or oppose any candidates. So we invite candidates to use their pledge in publicity, but make sure that they stipulate or stop there that, we pledge, but that Move to Amend does not endorse them. It may be a fine line, but it is a very important firewall that simply cannot be breached. All right, lastly, publicizing pledgers. Once pledgers have come in, you've tallied them, you've thanked them. Now it's an opportunity to sort of publicize who these people are, and to use, again, the pledgers as sort of use to talk about the campaign and to link it. It is a vehicle, it is an opening, it is an opportunity to talk about and to help educate and get the public at large aware. Of course, internally, we mean people who are already part of your Move to Amend group or who already are aware of Move to Amend, to let them know via social media, via email, or through blast, through Nation Builder, through Move to Amend, that so many people that you've reached out to have pledged, have said they back what we're doing. And so it's also an opportunity then to have constituents, internally, our folks, to reach out and thank those pledgers. So what that does is it reinforces all the more. When they get those calls, if they're elected, then they know there's more than maybe the single person that reached out to them saying, please sign the pledge. Externally, the pledgers are an opportunity to forge letters to the editor, to put together one or more press releases, again, that uses, hey, these 4 people in my city, or these 3 state reps and state senator in this geographic area have pledged, and you use that as a stepping stone to talk. What did they pledge? Well, they pledged the Move to Amend, which is connected to why, we're having a difficult time having health care in this country, or trying to have $15 an hour minimum wage, which we can't pass at the local level because it's been preempted by the state. And that preemption by the state was because the powers to be, the moneyed interests or corporate entities just, went to the state legislature and bought them off to make sure they passed a law that, overrode the local level. Or they went to court and said that that's unconstitutional. It's infringing on their rights, one form or another. So it's an excuse. It's a handle to talk about the issues. All right, sort of conclude here by just some important do's and don'ts that we always need to be mindful of. Volunteers may, on the left side, conduct candidate, you can organize, if you're really into it, candidate forums. You can invite any or all candidates running for either one office, multiple offices, whatever. So you need to invite all candidates who are running for a particular office. You don't have to invite all offices in your area. If you just want to focus on your city council or your state rep, say your and usually in any single place, there's going to be one or maybe two state reps that cover your city, but probably generally only one state senator. How it works is a state Senate district is composed of 3 state House districts, sort of roughly. So maybe you want to invite all the candidates running for the 3 state rep seats as well as your state Senate seat. It's okay to invite, or maybe just 2 of the 3, because one doesn't have any competition or whatever. So it's okay to choose the races, but whatever race you choose, you have to invite all the candidates, though they don't all have to attend. You also can ask questions at candidate forums. You can encourage voter registration. You can send educational information to candidates about move to amend. That's great. Please do support or oppose ballot initiatives. That's what we can do. And you can prepare voter scorecards to show how legislators have voted. So you can create, for those hypothetical 3 House districts and 1 Senate district, here's the 4 people who responded positively, and here's the 4 people who responded no, or they didn't vote at all, or didn't respond at all. So you can do that. So all of that is a permissible, legal, encouraged. What you can't do is show favoritism for one candidate or political, target voter registration drives, get out the vote campaigns, or other efforts that are in any way with a particular political party when you are sort of wearing your move to amend hat. You can do any of these things individually, but when you are in the capacity of, say, trying to promote the pledge to amend, of move to amend, you can't do this. Provide financial support, to a political candidate, or at the very end, coordinate efforts with a candidate or a political party. Again, on your own time is your own time, but not as a move to amend at the same time, the pledge to amend. All right, well, that's pretty much it. Sorry for taking so long. Just sort of close and end it here by saying and sort of inviting you, as we have some questions or comments, should we collectively, but it'd be nice if we had sort of a statewide goal, and if people are really gung-ho and are willing right now, without pondering it, to say, yeah, I'm willing to sort of take ownership of this place or this race, this would be the time to do that. Okay, so you can.
No, Sandy here.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to take Franklin County, if that's okay with everybody. If anybody, I'm not seeing people from Franklin County, so that's huge. So I'll get some help, but I'm wondering if anybody else is from here that would be interested in that. I can't do everybody from Franklin County. Let's be realistic, because it's a huge, really, really huge, 4 pages long of small print. But the other thing is, what about, could Move to Amend, and it's maybe too late this year, but can Move to Amend host one of these candidates nights? I mean, we could do it as a statewide. I know that.
Oh, absolutely. No, there are groups all the time that hold candidate forums.
Okay. I'm just thinking in the future, it'd be nice if the state, the state did it, but not
well,
now.
if you're thinking about taking Franklin County, Sandy, maybe, Central Ohio would want to invite, again, if you get too many candidates in a limited amount of time, you don't have a chance. They don't have a chance to be asked and to respond to questions. So you may want to just figure out which races within that, if you would want to do that.
I think we're seeing how important judges are. but I don't know if judges can declare things.
Yeah, judges generally will avoid taking positions
Yeah.
on this. All
Bill
right, so
had a good
before we
idea.
move on, so by saying Franklin, are you saying that any federal candidates in Franklin
Yes.
County? So any congressperson whose area includes in any part of Franklin County you're willing to take?
Well, let me,
You don't have to necessarily decide, but at least maybe
Yeah.
tentatively.
there's a lot of local races I would like to do too.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
but let me get back with you on that.
Great. Okay. Bill, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, I got it on mute. I don't know if this is too much of a stretch or not, but what would you think of one of us or any of us anyone else who wanted to campaign for Morgan Harper before the primary, saying that, not move to amend, but we, the people campaigning for Morgan Harper, are doing so because she's a non-establishment candidate who endorses move to amend and single payer health care. Is that too much of a stretch?
Yeah, you can't, I mean, you can do that on your own time. But you
Okay.
cannot say that move to amend endorses Morgan Harper or opposes Morgan Harper.
Okay, well, that's what I was.
You can say that Morgan Harper endorses the pledge to amend.
Okay, so I knock on a door and I say, "Hi, I'm Bill, volunteer for the Morgan Harper campaign," and she represents some very interesting or very important views that include endorsing move to amend to end corporate personhood and single payer healthcare, which would mean we would all have access to the care we need when we need it. Does that sound?
You can
Okay.
do that as an individual if she has in fact, endorsed and signed the
yeah.
pledge. Yeah.
Okay.
But if she has done that, then you as an individual can go door to door and do that.
Okay.
Yes, you
Great.
can. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Deb. And then I'll try to respond to some of the chats here. Sorry about that.
I do have some questions as well as, and Dee Dee, you can correct me if I'm off base, but our group here in Miami County would be willing to work on Warren Davidson. Currently, that's Congressional District 8, and of course, any candidate that's running against him. Also, State Representative Jenna Powell, and State Senator Steve Huffman, and then any elections going on in our county and the 3 big cities, Troy, Piqua, and Tip. Dee, what do you think? You think that sounds like what we've talked about?
Yep, you're on mute.
Did we talk about doing the cities? With more local candidates? I don't
We
remember.
might not have
talking
gotten
about
that specific, but I do think it's something that we could do with city council reps. It'll take some footwork, but I think we could do it. I mean, we can go back to the group and see, but
Okay.
definitely, I think Davidson, Jenna Powell, and Steve Huffman in there.
Yes. Yes.
So Greg, you got that.
Who are the state senators? Powell?
Yeah, Powell is a representative.
Rep. Okay.
Yep. And it's currently House District 80, and then Steve Huffman is the senator, and that's currently Senate District 5.
Got it. Okay.
Is this, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, and then the 3 cities in the county.
Well, yeah, based on what Dee Dee said, I think we'll want to go back to the group
Oh, okay, got it. All
to do that. And once we confirm or decide, we'll come back. So thank you, Dee.
Okay,
And then I had some questions. Do you want me to hold those?
go ahead.
Go ahead and ask. I have 3. One, I'm wondering, is there a way that we could advertise in our local paper in a simple way that sends a message that encourages candidates to pledge to amend and encourage the public to make this an issue when they talk to candidates? So that's one question. Can we advertise something simple in the paper? Another thing I'm wondering about, could we start showing up at city council meetings and saying, this is the election year. We think it's important, blah, 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 for candidates to indicate their position on this issue of corporate personhood and money in politics. And we encourage citizens to be asking candidates where they stand. So can we do something like that by going to city council meetings or commissioner meetings? And then finally, this idea of equity. Like if we know that, Warren Davidson is going to run, but we don't yet know who might be running against him, can we go ahead and start working on Davidson now and then work on the other ones later? Or should this happen at the same time? So those are my 3 questions.
Yeah, in terms of advertising, yeah, you can advertise. I mean, a good way to advertise, the cheapest way to do it would be to try to formulate this whole idea of yours in a letter to the editor. Because it's something you're trying to get the voters as well as the elected officials to do. And in terms of going to city council, absolutely, you can go to city council. You can have forms, hand them out to city council for that matter. It's just that you would then need to make sure that whoever's running against them receive it. It doesn't have to be like that day by any means, as long as they get them. And so therefore, that's the answer to the 3rd question. You can absolutely start with Davidson now, as long as whoever is running against Davidson also at some point is solicited.
I would suggest that maybe buying ad space has an advantage over a letter to an editor, because a letter to an editor tends to be it's from one person, and so it kind of ties it to someone, generally speaking, whereas an ad is I don't know, when I look at ads, I'm not thinking of a person, I'm thinking of a group. And I think having an ad, knowing that it's coming from a group is effective. So, doing both, of course.
Yeah, you can absolutely do that if you care to.
Yeah, I know that Dee Dee and Paula, members of our group, had brought up that idea of advertising. And so it sounds like it could be very effective. So I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, Carla mentions that is a good point. It's not a municipal election year. So, those folks are going to come up in odd years. So they're probably generally up. But again, because they don't have any opponents this year, you can still approach them. You can still ask them to sign. You don't have to worry about opponents at the moment. So you can get them. It's just that when they run, yeah, you can do that. However, next year, right, when it is a municipal year, you're going to have to go back to them again, because the whole election cycle starts over.
Really,
So you might as well, yeah, you can do it if you want.
let's not spend, we don't have unlimited time and energy.
Yeah.
We don't have unlimited people. So I would suggest that this is not the best year to do local municipal office holders. They have no opposition, so what's it to them?
Unless, like there's democracy days. Toledo's having a democracy day coming up in 2 weeks. And I think that was going to be one of the asks. Hey, how about you guys pledging? Why not? You're already testifying. All right. See if there's any questions. Sandy says Tim Ryan is a co-sponsor of HR 48. That's true, but he hasn't pledged as a senator. So I think we want him in his case, because this has not been introduced in the Senate yet. So that would be a pretty nice pledge.
Greg, would you repeat that? I missed that.
Well, Sandy brought up in the chat that, well, what about Tim Ryan? He's like a co-signer of HR 48. So I took that to mean that, oh, we can sort of forget about him, but actually not, because he's running for a different seat. And it's a pretty important one of a senator. And if he would pledge, now, whether he does it or not, follow, but the first step would be to get him to pledge that as a senator, he would promote this in that body, which is a much heavier lift than just being a co-sponsor in the House.
I will say that whenever I get those mailings for anybody or any group, I turn them all. I return them all, whether I endorse or fill it out or certainly send money. I always put in something about move to amend, like if not unless you send it, like as Bill's doing when he's reaching out to people. I move to amend is in all those letters. So I think if a lot of us did that, they'd start hearing, seeing how important that is to a lot of people.
Yeah.
But good point about Ryan.
Yeah, Bob talks about local newspapers. You can still pay a pretty penny in ads. So I don't know if in Troy you've done the figuring out what an ad costs, but he says it can cost upwards of $1,200.
That's expensive.
Yeah, pretty expensive.
I think Marlene has a question,
Yeah, Marlene.
and then Carla.
Thank you. I've been trying to reach Chantel Brown. Trying to call every Wednesday. I can't get a response. Her aides are great, but cannot get a response at all to find out even what her position is. And I'm wondering if anybody has some suggestions. I mean, who else is calling her?
I have a suggestion.
Go ahead, Carl.
Okay.
Does anyone know if Nina Turner has pledged to amend?
I don't think she's been asked yet. Well, she was.
If we can get Nina Turner to pledge to amend, that's how to get Chantel Brown to do it, because Nina Turner expressed her support, came out in support of expanded and improved Medicare for all. And the very next day, Chantel Brown became a co-sponsor of expanded and improved Medicare for all, which we know she doesn't support, but she became a co-sponsor because Nina Turner had made it an issue. So if we get Nina Turner to pledge to amend, I think that's the approach on that.
Good, thank you.
And I would just like to volunteer to try to do the governor's races. The Democratic primary candidates and the Republican, oh my God, however many of them, there are a million of them, the Republican side.
Yeah.
And the reason that I'm offering to do it is because I know fairly well one of the candidates for lieutenant governor, Cheryl Stevens, and she has already, pledged to amend as a city council candidate in Cleveland Heights. And so I think that she would come out for this. And so I feel I have a little in with her, but boy, dealing with those Republicans won't be fun, but I won't get anywhere anyway, so I'll just try, you know. Is anybody else, does anybody else want to speak up for governor and lieutenant governor?
All yours.
Oh, great. Okay, thanks.
But Carla, you might want to reach out to Mary Sue. She's what's her name is from her area. Forget the name.
Oh, yeah, Nan Whaley. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know she's been trying to contact her. It's not that she has this big in with her, but
That's a good point. And,
She actually does not have a good relationship with her.
well,
well,
it's
no,
not
she
bad.
doesn't like her.
Yeah, well, okay, I don't think. All right,
Well, maybe she'll have some tips for me, you know.
yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
But Nina Turner has
Um,
not. She's not on the list. If you want, I can read off the list. It's unfortunately it's not as many as I thought it was. If you want me to
What
read it
list are
off,
you talking about?
the
think-
list of people who have signed the pledge.
Already endorsed, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess everybody can see that. in the
Yeah,
thing.
well, I'll send after this call,
Yeah.
next day or two, I'll send a link of all the things that were in the PowerPoint. Any other questions?
Can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
You'll send a link to what?
Oh, a link to all, I will send out a email with all the links that were in the PowerPoint.
Did you say that Nina Turner has?
No, she is not.
Okay. I thought Greg was saying she had.
Well,
So I'm
apparently,
confused.
Ohio, Our Revolution got her to endorse. They said they put together a survey that had several issues. And she signed saying she would support Medicare for all, and she would support the move to amend.
Oh, well, then we just need the
Okay.
formal pledge, right? We need to get the
Yeah.
formal pledge and
Yeah.
publicize that. And then to tell Chantel Brown's office, okay, she pledged to amend.
Right.
Maybe that would help.
All right, so I will handle that.
Greg?
Yep.
I have my hand up. You didn't see it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep.
Okay. One
And if
thing-
you're done, please put your hand down.
No, right, of course. Here we go. I can do that. One thing that was curious to me in your presentation, early on, I got the impression you were saying that only one person within this group should reach out to a candidate or office holder. And should be targeted, and there shouldn't be overlap. And I was interested, why is that?
Well, I just think because of person power, it would be probably best that, I think in part, you're always trying to develop a relationship, right? Relationships are so important anyway. And if these people get elected, if they've been dealing with one person who's representing that organization, they identify them, and there's a way then to hopefully develop that relationship. But also it helps just spread our efforts around. If two people are focusing on one person, it means that second person can't focus on a second person.
Okay.
It's been done different. I think Minnesota, that's why they developed that one sheet that sort of track. But you can certainly have more than one person sort of keeping track of the form of, say, when the last time a candidate was responded. But it's probably best to have the same person reach out to a candidate. Several people can be on and everybody can have access to the form that monitors. And one person can say, hey, hey, Dean, I noticed that this candidate hasn't responded the last 10 days. Where does that stand? You think you should reach out to him or her?
Right. Okay. I just thought if more than one person urged the candidate, that would sort of compound the pressure, as it were. But
Yeah.
okay.
I think in this case, we're get them to consider this, and I think that, I mean, they're not gonna be pressured, I don't think necessarily to do this. They're either gonna do it or they won't.
Okay,
Bob makes a good point about Republicans not necessarily being pro-corporate. You know, that's, we certainly have seen communities that have passed ballot initiatives that have been, you know, having registered voters being somewhat balanced or even maybe weighted more toward Republican that have passed our ballot initiative. Between
State of
entrepreneur,
Montana. State of
Pardon?
Montana would be a prime example.
yeah, state of Montana, yeah, that one did.
Long-standing opposition to corporate power in Montana.
Absolutely, because of their history of resource plundering. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, they get it. Yep, yeah, that's an important point. So do not, I mean, obviously you can't cross out. You have to reach out to all candidates if you have chosen a race. Sandy?
Yeah, real quick, I think some of our representatives on both parties are lockstep in with what they have to do. It's not really up to them, and if they're in that situation, they probably don't care. But one of the things that I'm toying with doing is in my letter that I use the template that Move to Amend sends, but I change things around sometimes. And one of the things I think I'll just put at the top, you know, it's time to put democracy before party, or maybe with Republicans, put the republic before party. But the other thing I want to say is I'm getting really excited about, you know, I've got the list here and I'm really excited about just getting those letters. It's really fun to just get those letters out and then see what comes up, because you'll get lots of, well, then you'll know what to do and where to go.
Right. Yeah, Marlene? Oh, you're on mute.
Didn't Brecksville pass a ballot initiative
Yep.
for Move to Amend? So, and that's not an area where I would have expected it to pass. So I'm not sure what all the dynamics were, but it shows there's hope even for, you know, districts like that. And I do think it does matter if more than one person keeps calling the same representative. I think that if more people would be, for example, calling Chantel Brown, it's not just one voice. I don't, you know, and I think that they do eventually have to respond to that, especially if there isn't anybody opposing it, calling them. So.
Yeah, I think the distinction here is, I mean, it may be a fine line between, you know, in the case of her, really trying to put, and I agree with you, trying to have multiple people reach out to her to try to get her to co-sponsor the resolution, HR 48, as opposed to candidates, you know, we're just, it's almost administrative, you know, we're just trying to send out the notice, get information out. Hopefully the information, the language of the pledge speaks for itself. And so there hopefully won't be a whole lot of person power associated with any one person. Either they're going to do it or not. And oftentimes the big issue is just to make sure they see it, because they're inundated with stuff coming into them. So the big thing is just to make this get before their eyeballs. Once they do it, that's all we can, you know, that's really all we can do.
Okay, so you're going to handle contacting Nina Turner, Greg? Is
Yeah,
that what you said?
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
contact you. But feel
So,
free to keep calling Chantel Brown, because I talked to her legislative aide this past Wednesday and said, yeah, we're still looking into it, you know, we're still reviewing it and all.
right. Okay, thank you.
So calls do help, definitely. Okay, I don't want this to go past the bottom of the hour, because that'd be 90 minutes, and Saturdays I know are precious time. Any other, if I missed any questions or comments, feel free to just voice them in. Yeah, I'm sorry, the one guy left who I will respond to him, James. I'll get back to him personally. I don't necessarily see anything else. So any other last questions, comments, or commitments? I know the,
And you're gonna send out the entire presentation, PowerPoint, whatever you call it, that you presented to us this morning. Is that right?
yeah, most importantly, the links
Yeah, okay.
of the various documents. From some of theirs. Try to pull
Those
those.
is really helpful, Greg. Thank you. Those extra links are going to be good to have. So
Yeah.
I like that one that formulates everything.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you so much. Oh, just before we go, any interest in just sort of establishing a number? How many new pledgers between now and November 2nd or 8th? If we're just talking about total crapshoot.
Well, I know I can get 3.
Now and between now and when?
And the election, November 8th. How many people can we get to commit, to pledge from Ohio?
Oh, from the whole state. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'll say 5 from Franklin County. I'm hoping it's more, but I can say 5. I know I've got 3, another 2 try, but I'll say 5 from Franklin County.
How about 25 total?
Oh, sure,
Second that.
sure.
Second it.
25 total, yes.
25 is a good number.
I think we can do better.
Yeah, I think we can do better too. Is there an Ohio number? Is there a number associated with Ohio? Particularly.
Well, there's the
Some
2 zeros in Ohio, but let's not go there.
20, yeah, right.
I think there are 25 Republicans running for governor, but we won't get them.
I think it's more like 2,500.
All right, well, let's go 25. We can do more than that. Great. All right, everyone. Well, thanks so much. And feel free to invite others to be a part of this, either working with you or on their own. And let us know, again, let us know, Greg, or I mean, ohio@movetoamend.org after this call, who you're willing to choose. And I'll summarize and send that out. Okay, thanks much.
Great.
Thanks, everybody. Take
Bye-bye.
care.
Bye, everybody.
Greg.